This audio presentation of Hi Dad is brought to you by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction. Written by Herbert Ewing Duncan. Executive producers: Scottish Rite Grand Commander James D. Cole, 33rd degree. Grand Master of DeMolay John Sellars, and DeMolay Grand Secretary Stephen E. Crane. Narrated and produced by Matt Bowers, 32nd degree. Consulting producer Dean Alban, 33rd degree. Hi Dad Book, copyright 1981. Audio recordings copyright 2023. All rights reserved. For information on how you can donate to support this audio serial, visit DeMolay.org. Chapter 1. As the Twig Is Bent. Frank Land was to say in later years, after he had seen thousands of young men grow into manhood, that it is the beginning that is most important. The early years are the base on which a life is built. If sound ideals are a part of youth, then the mature years will radiate sound ideals, wholesome endeavor, and worthwhile activities. In his own life, the qualities of a rare power to arouse human aspirations and a sense for the organization of ideas were always present, even as a child. On a Sunday afternoon, in the year 1900, at the hour of Vespers, droves of children began to assemble in the basement of the Land home at 1239 Euclid Avenue in St. Louis, Missouri. All during the winter and summer months, children had been coming in regular attendance each week for an unusual church service conducted by one of their number, Frank Land, age 10. This Sunday, however, was different. An article had appeared in the local paper during the week past, with pictures and an editorial concerning that was heralded in headlines as Unique West End Sunday School is conducted by young boys. This publicity brought the curious and the interested in such numbers they crowded the room to the farthest corners. They were children mostly, with a few curious adults, all waiting for the service to begin. The room was typical of a basement area of the period with whitewashed native stone walls, exposed floor joists overhead, a round furnace with a web of heat ducts extending to the upper rooms, and a large coal bin in one corner. Seating consisted of old chairs in various stages of disrepair, an ironing board resting on orange crates, and a few planks built up to seating height on discarded bricks. In one corner across from the coal bin was a small organ donated by a wholesale drug executive. Opposite it was an American flag with 45 stars. The central area was occupied by a Victorian table with ornamental legs, terminating claws clutching glass balls that rested on a threadbare Axminster carpet. On the table was a velvet tapestry on which rested a worn and finger-marked Bible, given for perfect Sunday school attendance. A copy of a McGuthrie reader had been placed on the left corner of the table, and to the right a vase with garden flowers. Hanging from the wall in crayon-printed letters was the motto and rules of the Euclid Avenue Congregational Sunday School. Number 1. No noise will be allowed in the Euclid Avenue Sunday School. Number 2. Attend the Sunday school meetings. Number 3. Study the lesson. Number 4. No talking in time of church or Sunday school. Number 5. Be prompt, if possible. Always be in your place to greet your pupils as they come in. Number 6. Elect officers every year. Number 7. No laughing in time of prayer. Number 8. If compelled to be absent, secure a substitute. Number 9. Put Christ into every lesson. Number 10. No disorder. Motto: remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Chairs were placed at various points of the room for the officers who conducted the opening prayers and the singing of hymns. These officers were Norman Merrill, President; Walter Merrill, Vice President; Albert Dempsey, Superintendent; Sylvester Etherington, Treasurer; Orrin Miller, Organist; and John Lively, Clerk. The boys were serious. This church meeting, to them, was not play but a service of meaning and deep devotion. As the service progressed, a hush of expectancy filled the basement room as the young worshippers waited for the appearance of Frank Land, the little minister. Then, at the dramatic moment he emerged from the coal bin, one hand was tucked in his blouse against his chest in the manner of the minister of his church. He was slightly under average height for his age, with his hair parted on the left side, a hard wing collar with a flowing blue tie showing above, and a wide lapelled wool coat. He wore high lace shoes, black stockings, and knee-length knickers. The sense of purpose showing in the depth of his blue eyes held the attention of those in the room. Now this timid boy, who was often afraid to recite in a classroom, began to speak with complete confidence. "Friends are very important," he began. "We must have friends. We must share with them. We help each other. I am going to tell you a story from the Old Testament about two friends, David and Jonathan." Upstairs, a few of the mothers sat with Mrs. Land, who was holding little Sissy, age 5, on her lap. They were listening to the sermon through the open door to the basement, feeling like eavesdroppers even when they knew it best not to be present and to let the boys venture on their own initiative. The quiet, boyish voice rose at times to bring importance to his story of a friendship that could be constant even before the jealous wrath of a king. It was a strange and somewhat disturbing experience to listen to children conducting a service of worship with such intense devotion. Finally, one of the mothers turned to Mrs. Land and asked, "Elizabeth, how did this all begin?" Mrs. Land said, "Frank has been interested in Sunday school ever since we came from Kansas City and united with the Fountain Park Congregational Church. He was only 2 years old at the time, but all during the years he has never missed a Sunday. Why, he constantly reads the Bible. He has read it through possibly more than once. He can quote chapters from memory. Last fall he said he wanted to start a Sunday school, and when I asked why, he said, 'I want something, Mother, to keep the boys off the streets Sunday afternoon and keep them out of mischief. Can you help?' So I suggested that we fix up the basement. I wonder about Frank. He is so interested in what boys are doing. He spins tops, plays marbles and baseball with the others. But there is a deep spiritual part of him I cannot explain." The women listened as the young voice told in detail the age-old story of an adventure in comradeship. Finally, a neighbor and the mother of Frank's best friend said, "I hope you will pardon me, but you seem much too young to be the mother of a boy of 10. Would you tell us how old you are?" Elizabeth Lottie Land was silent for a moment. Her mind carried her back through the years, when, as Elizabeth Sampson, with pride in a family that traced its pioneer heritage to a granddaughter of Daniel Boone, she had fallen in love with a struggling young lumberyard employee, William Sherman Land, and in defiance of family objections had married him when she was only 15. Frank was born a year later on June 21, 1890, in a modest home at 1908 Highland Avenue in Kansas City, Missouri. They were good years, and she was proud of her young son, her daughter, and her husband. Now at the age of 26, she answered the question with a smile by simply saying, "I was 16 when Frank was born." They heard the voice of the little minister as he concluded his 10-minute sermon. "The arrow is way, way back. Go get it and bring it to the palace." And so the boy did, and the two friends knew. They must part, for David's life was in danger. David and Jonathan embraced, and David went into hiding. Their friendship would never break up. They would always be loyal to each other. We should be comrades as they were. Mrs. Merrill, mother of the president of the youthful congregation, smiled and commented, "Frank always brings out some virtue in his talks. One Sunday he spoke of mother love, another of Naboth and the love of country, and once he told the story of the Good Samaritan and how we should be courteous to each other. He is a remarkable boy. He may become minister, as he says, but I believe he will turn his determination to help others into some other direction. I remember my father saying, 'As the twig is bent, so is the tree inclined.'"